Hi guys,
Welcome back.
it's Table Talk Gaming here. Your host Jason,
And Sam.
and today we're going to talk about list building, and we're going to give you a little bit of a guide, something a little different.
Yeah, something to put a lot more thought into what you're going to bring to the table.
Keep in mind, there's a lot of ways this game can be played. It's a great hobby, where you can play narrative, you can play for funsies, you can play casual, as they call them, games, and we do a lot of those.
Yes, but
And
in
they're
this
fun.
one, in this list building guide, we're going to focus on bringing a tournament list, bringing something competitive to the field.
Something where if you're gonna go guns blazing, this is how you do it. Keep in mind, this is our opinion. A lot of people will build differently, but we feel that this is a way that you can better your army building technique, because a large part of this game is building your army. And if you don't have the tools on the table to deal with enemy units, you just can't do it. And so this is a way to kind of analyze what you're bringing and kind of do a self-check on why is this unit in my army?
And we want to make you ask yourself that question for every unit you plan on picking. Why? What is its purpose? What is its goal? Why am I bringing it?
Let's begin. So why does this method work? What problems does it solve? It keeps your army from trying to do too many things at once. A lot of people will look and just grab a hodgepodge of stuff. They'll be like, oh, this unit could shoot really amazing. I'll grab it. Oh, look, this monster's super cool. Oh, yeah, I'll bring this in. And oh my god, look at this horde of fucking orcs. I'm going to bring it all. And they will take it, shove it all in, add a few requirements, and they'll put it on the table, and they realize it's just gonna get tore up by anything
They
with
have
more
no
focus.
and
Yeah, focus is important. You have to have a goal in mind. You have to win the game before you even drop a unit onto the table. You have to know how you will win, and you'll have to know what your units are going to do to help you win. And using this method, you have a better knowledge of what role every unit in your army is going to play in that goal to win. It helps you also deal with other armies. So when you're in the deployment phase, which again, a lot of games are won or lost here, you know where you want your units because you know what your units are supposed to do. Not just mechanics-wise, but in relation to your army. Okay, so in order to help us be more methodical in our approach to building an army, we have divided units into 4 different types. Now this is very loose division here. A lot of units can take up more than one role, if you will. And the 4 roles are as follows: central, support, harassment, and chaff. Sammy, tell us about central units. What are central units?
Central units? Alright. These guys are going to be the ones that you want going toe-to-toe with the enemy. And these are going to be what your army are built around. Say, for instance, my Feral Orcs, just the big old group. These are the guys I want to see get into combat because they are game-changing. They can, if they win their battles, usually what I want to put them up against, it will severely hinder the capabilities of the enemy team.
Indeed. The central units are just that. They're central to your plan. Now keep in mind, when we're talking about these units, it's all in context of you're building them around your army. They're central to your army. Support units will help your central units. And there are things that just basically help your central units do their job better. Magical wizards that buff. Anything that provides extra combat ability, like a unit that, like a Pharaoh, that gives extra weapon skill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something like that. Anything that supports and allows your unit to do their job better. Anything that protects a flank.
Anything definitely that can make your central units do what they do better.
Yes, indeed. Allow them to. So anvil units, tar pit units, these are all support units that will just take an enemy out of the game not maybe points wise, but just get them out of the picture so they can't hurt your central units or get in the way of your central units. Harassment units kill the enemy support
Yes.
and the enemy chaff.
Put pressure on
Indeed, they put pressure on the enemy. They force them to respond, and they really deteriorate the enemy's army from reaching whatever goal they're trying to do. The next unit is chaff, and chaff does one thing and one thing only when you think about it.
Get in the way. What else?
Buys you time.
Yes.
It buys you time. It allows your units to get into position to do what they need to do. And chaff buys you time. Chaff could be considered support, but I consider chaff its own category simply because it's something you're willing to sacrifice.
Yes, yes.
Much like in chess, sometimes you have to give away a pawn
Yeah.
to get what you need to do.
A rook. Something way more powerful.
Indeed. Okay, so let's begin this process of building a tournament ready army. And where do we start?
With our central units, the center of our unit, our army.
And before that though, before you even decide what the central units are going to be, you want to decide how are you going to win. What do you want to do? Do you want to shoot the enemy off the table? Do you want to get into close combat with one big brick?
Do you want to own the magic phase?
Do you want to have a lot of little units that kind of surround the enemy and keep them from doing what they do? Decide how you will win. Decide how you are going to win the game before you even know what you're facing. Because if you don't have a plan, your army list is not going to be as good as it could be.
Again, that focus. You want to really build it around what your focused goal is.
So central units are how you're going to win. So if I, for example, wanted to saturate the enemy with large targets, monsters, and things like that, I would choose central units to help me achieve this plan. Things that are monsters, that are tough to take down, that I can just saturate the board with and overwhelm them, basically. Now, a lot of times you cannot take central units from core, simply because core has a core tax, if you will. And they're more expensive for what they do.
And something that has to be paid, though, is your core. So if you get the chance that you can take one of your central units from core, do so. Because it could take a lot of that tax space.
Indeed. A couple armies can do this pretty well. Warriors of the Dark Gods, they can build a powerful warrior block that can be a central unit. You can have more than one central unit, too. Remember, I usually try to take 3.
Yeah. That's like the perfect goal, to have 3 units in mind that can definitely be game-changing.
Keep in mind, for a monster mash, I would consider all my monsters one single unit for the purposes of list building, a single threat. Undying Dynasties, if they take an Architect General, their Shopties, the 6 Shopties, that can be a central unit.
And now it turns into your core as well.
Indeed, which, again, it's all about efficiency here with your points. So that is what you want to do. You want to decide how you will win and pick your units that are going to win you the game. Now, the next step, once you have your central units, like, I want this, pick units that will support your central units to do what they need to do. If your central units are groups of igniters in a Demon Legion army, pick things that'll slow the enemy down. Support units that will that will draw focus from the igniters. Magic that will support the igniters and allow you to pour more fire into something.
Oh yeah, magic especially, like if you have close combats, oh man, if you can hinder the enemy or buff your own guys, +1s to hit, extra ability to wounds,
extra toughness, extra strength, any buffs, any hexes, which are, I feel in this context, are just like buffs, but in a different direction.
Yes.
Again, if these can come from core, awesome. Again, a lot of times we realize that they can't. But if they can, and if you have stuff that will support you, do it, man. My Demon Legion army in core has 2 champions in their horror units, and these have pink fire and blue fire. And pink fire will give my units an extra breath weapon attack, and breath weapons can be used in the shooting phase. Just saying. Okay, now that you have your support units and you know how you're going to win, you know what you're going to do, you got to think, okay, so where are my threats here? What's going to keep my central units from doing their job? What can the enemy bring that will really shut me down? In case of a monster mash list, enemy artillery are just going to tear through you.
Yes.
It's going to take your units and it's going to bend them over, and all those points are going to be gone.
And not even take them to breakfast the next day.
Indeed. So you got to choose units that... You got to take units that can eliminate or negate threats. And the key to this is to have something that is maneuverable, that can get around enemy chaff, and enemy support, and enemy central units, or a large threat range where they can't be blocked, they can't be slowed, that they can get in as fast as possible.
Fly comes in very handy with this.
You have 6 turns. Your time is limited. You want to get rid of the enemy's the enemy support units and the enemy's harassment units as fast as you possibly can. This allows you more time to prepare the ground so your central units can perform their duty and win you the game according to your plan. Some examples: skeletal archers. Eliminate enemy chaff. Plink down central unit strengths, support unit strengths. You know, it's a small bonus, but it is a bonus. It's something that they can do. And they come from core, which is awesome.
Yeah. One of my personal harassments is the National Wrecking teams. They've got a very large threat range. They've got 3d6 movement. So there's a good chance that they can just zoom across the board, and what they do, they get in your face and they make you deal with them. They are definitely pressure units because you don't want to get hit by strength 6, 2d6 hits with armor piercing 6. Yeah, like he said, the Chaos Band, just you could take away their armor save and just really they don't want to fucking have that thing in their units.
And harassment, he's right. Harassment units are all about pressure, putting pressure on the enemy, lessening their time. Okay, now when we're talking about time, every plan needs time. And there's one way to buy time that's better than any other chaff. These are throwaway units.
Man.
The key to being chaff is you want something, I would say, 85 points or less.
Yeah, no more than 85.
I mean, I could
cheap as you can get.
I could throw away a 100-point unit too if I really need to, but
Yeah.
if a unit's chaff, it's about 80 points.
Yeah, it's
60
about
to
being
80.
thrown away.
And you don't mind losing these guys because they're going to buy you time.
Yeah.
They're either going to keep the enemy central units from achieving their goal, or they're going to reposition the enemy units to where you want them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes Frenzy such a detriment to units that they have, because the chaff can just draw them out, force them to overrun.
They have to test a charge.
Yes,
So-
indeed. Now, don't go overboard on chaff, because remember, your points are limited.
You don't want your entire army to be
Chaff.
thrown away.
Yeah, because then you have no way of fulfilling your plan. But I would have a minimum of 2 units of chaff, dedicated chaff. And remember, every unit can perform multiple roles. And sometimes sometimes goblin shamans become chaff.
Yes. Sometimes to save a rear charge on my central block of feral orcs, I will pop out a character to stop his chariots. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. A support roll turns into a chaff roll.
Indeed. Okay, now after you've got your list built, and you have all these roles filled, and you fit it into the point allotment, look at your list. Look at it, give your honest opinion, and consider what's going to be what's my nightmare scenario. What am I going to look across the table and say, "Oh fuck, I'm going to die."
Oh shit.
Consider make notes of those holes or weaknesses. You have to know your army. You have to. Because if you don't know what you're weak against, you're going to run in. I was playing in a tournament, and I was bringing a terracotta army, and this guy just ran one of his central units into my Death Star terracotta. He got wiped. I think I tabled him in that game because he lost in turn 2 one of his central units because he just didn't know that he would be weak against that type of Death Star. And since he didn't know, his lack of knowledge, he lost the game and spectacularly. It wasn't fun for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I felt the same way. Death Star, I triple charged off of it and lost. Man, when you don't know what you're going up against,
Indeed.
you don't know your weaknesses,
Indeed.
it can really hurt you.
Now look at your list and consider alternative unit choices. Yeah, you have your vultures, but would skeletal cavalry work better?
Mm-hmm.
They come from core choices.
Yeah. Take that.
They can have a ranged attack, so that's interesting. Mm-hmm. They're also cheaper. But are they better? I wouldn't say they're better, but it's different choices, alternative choices.
Yes.
Things that maybe wouldn't be expected in your meta. Something that can surprise an opponent often has more value than something that's just good in general. Mm-hmm. But that's something that takes practice to know. So look at your units and think, well, how can I fine-tune this list? What can I take that would be better here? What can perform the same role but better? Then, once you have your list built,
that's when we come to testing it out. That's the only way you're going to know what units actually shine and what you feel you need to replace. That, like, maybe it could be better.
Look, I built lists that on paper look hard as a rock, but then I put them on the table and I'm like, well, damn, I have no answer to this. Mm-hmm. And I don't notice it because I'm looking at it in a different mode. It's like when you read on the computer screen versus reading something in paper. You'll notice different things in different formats because that's how your eyes are built. And when you're looking at your army list versus looking at it splayed out on the table,
it's a very
you're going to notice different things.
Biased opinion.
You're going to notice different things.
Because that's when you see your weaknesses.
Indeed.
Is when you see across the table and you think to yourself, oh shit, that's your weakness right there. That's what you know you need to deal with.
Now, things to keep in mind here. Once again, always build around how you will win. Yeah, you could have an excellent close combat unit, but if you're going for a shooting win, why are you taking this?
It's almost useless.
Why are you taking this?
Someone who's built centrally around combat is going to kick that combat unit's ass. It may be awesome, but it's not what you're built around. It's just one little kind of thing in your army.
Now, keep in mind, it's sometimes good to have a little variety, and a little bit of balance. Balance is always good. And like, for example, in my Demon Legion army, I bring they're almost all shooting, but I have 2 combat characters that I use just in case. Now I don't rely on them. I know that they're not gonna perform normally. You know what I mean? And I'm seriously debating taking one of them out just for more shooting. It's something that I have to experiment with, and it's best to stay focused. It really is. Any unit that you can take that can perform multiple roles, well, that's the best to take. Cheap is good. Good is better than cheap, though, because cheap will die, but you're good. Good will hold.
Case in point, core units for the orcs and goblins. Just normal orcs as feral, they're good, you know. But taking them as head bashers, oh man, extra weapon skill, extra strength, it's just so much better.
Yeah, it's more points.
Yeah.
But they're more likely to hold their points. Mm-hmm. And to not give them up.
Yes, and to take more of the enemies.
Okay, and now we're going to take this all and put it in practice really quick and build a tournament list and do the first draft of a tournament list for Terracotta.
Because if you're like most people, having an example makes you learn so much better than just hearing us talk out of our asses.
And once again, kids, what is the first step? How are we going to win? So I thought about it, and I was like, why don't we build a list of close combat? We're going to take our central units of Necroguard. We're going to take some Shop Tees in here, and we're going to back it up with a lot of monsters.
Okay.
So let's build that list. Now, this is a central, triple central units that I often take. But let's see how we can make these powerful. So again, core is best if you can come from core. So in that case, we want the Time Architect General here. Boom. But then I think about it. Well, that's cheap, but it's good is better. So we can afford, I think, to take a Pharaoh in this case, and also take a Harbinger. And let's see. Let's get those core units, special units. We want a Shop Tees. We want a Necroguard. We want a Sphinx, and let's put 2 Sphinxes in there. Boom. Central units. Give them breath weapons. Okay, Shop Tees to be effective need at least 6. Okay. Make one a champion. Paired weapons. That's good for now. And it's always important to keep in mind your point total and work within your point cost. Necroguard. This is a core. This is a central choice. We want to win. We want a big. So we're gonna take all these things. Give him paired weapons. Give him banner of speed so I can kind of keep up with my Shop Tees a little better. And we're gonna up the ante here. And we want horde formation. We want them good and strong. Now we're planning to put two units in here, so I'm going to leave a little space for them because I don't think we need more than 4 ranks here. So that's 38, and we'll just pop the Harbinger and the Pharaoh in there. So now we have our central units. Boom! This is our center here. This is our central stuff. So now how are we going to support this? Well, one thing we need as a requirement as well is magic. So let's get some Death Acolytes on the board. Give one a Path of Sands. And let's just keep one as level 1 and give him a Tomb of Arcane Lore. Now, this gives me 4 spells on the board. One of them is a Ruler of the Dead, let's say. That's pretty good. And it's pretty low point cost here. Support for these guys, they're going to need a bunker. And we want to take support from core if we can, so we can. Let's get some skeletal archers. They're acting as support and harassment in this case, because they have their shooting ability, and they also have they add durability to your acolytes here. So let's put 1 in each, and we can up the number a little. Let's make them 12.
Just some extra wound counters, extra arrow shots.
Let's give a champion in each unit, simply to in case they do get charged.
Yes, we've definitely learned that lesson.
Yeah.
And the cheeky thing you could do with the champion in a unit is if so I've had a game where I've charged his unit with his Hierophant in there, and I was on an Orc Chief on a Wyvern, and I just came in and just deleted the unit, and now he started taking crumbles. Well, if you had a champion, you can issue a challenge, and just you'll lose that combat more than likely against whatever's there attacking you, but it buys you time. That's just 1 round of combat that you don't have to deal with that thing attacking your Hierophant.
Okay, what else are we missing? We need some more support, I think. So let's get a casket in there. That, again, it fills multiple roles. And we need more core. As you can see, we're only at 164 core points, and we need a lot more. So let's get some chariots in there, because we can. Standard bearer. We want this to be more of a defensive chariot, I think, in this case. So we're not going to give them light troops, because, I mean, it's free, but we want that ability to hold objectives. We're going to bump this up to... You know what? Even better. Let's do 2 groups of 3. Standard bearer. And that brings our core points up by quite a bit. Harassment. Let's see what we want for harassment. Let's get a unit of Sandstalkers in there. with underground ambush, because as you can tell, one of our central themes here is battle sphinxes. And what we don't want is enemy artillery ruining their day. So if we use Sandstalkers, we can charge enemy artillery, we can gaze it to death. There's enemy monsters that might threaten us. A lot of things here. Now looking at my points solo, I'm like, oof, that's a lot of points. So where can we save some points? Okay, well, we need more core. So that's let's just get some chaff going here. Get a couple units of skeletal cavalry. Okay, give them aspen bows. And we need to up it a little more, so let's add, don't worry about the points too much now. Let's add some archers. Okay, so 15 one, 16 actually total in one, 15 in another. And we have 626. That's pretty good. You want to keep it as close to 625 as you can. But if you go over a little, that's okay. We're 33 points over on here, and we still need to buy stuff for the Pharaoh and the Harbinger. Because just naked, you don't want them naked. No. You want at least a little bit of defense. And we're not going to go really offensive with them. We just want them to survive, because they're there to give their bonus of hatred in one case, and
weapon skill 6
in the other. So let's look at where we can't take from the horses. We can't take, look. Let's lower this a bit. Let's get rid of a few. Okay, that's still 35 strong. That's still pretty good. Let's see where else we can save some money here. Sandstalkers? No, I think we want these to be there. So let's look and let's try to put some stuff in here. Get the casket. This is just me organizing here. Okay, we have Pharaoh. Let's see, toughness 5, armor save 6. That's not very good. Let's give him heavy armor. Let's give him a shield. It's weapon skill, armor save of 4. Still not great, but let's see what else we can give him. A dragon mantle. Interesting. Armor save of 2. That's pretty good. Not the best, but pretty good. And with the wound and toughness, I feel he's survivable enough. Okay, let's look at the Harbinger here. Again, we want survivable. So the cheapest survivable I can think of is Mithril Mail. Pop that on there.
Super cheap way to get a 2-up.
Boom. So that's 50 points in items. That's not much. So we're looking at this, and we're 38 points out. We have 2 units of chaff. That's the bare minimum. Okay. The Sandstalkers might have to go looking at this. They're 170 points. Yeah, they're great harassment. But we have the Skeletal Chariots, which can just get through. We can just make them light troops. Boom. And then they can threaten the back lines if they need to, and threaten Franks and perform multiple rows. Sandstalkers, we could also get rid of the Casket at this point. Which do you think is better? Casket's cheaper. But it's more reliable, I feel.
That's what I was about to say, because your Sandstalkers, you still have to roll to get them to come in. There's a chance you could not see them the whole game, and that could really hinder you. The Casket, super good support item. That -1, and it also the bound spell with the leadership. My vote goes for the Casket. I feel it plays a better support role.
Now, looking at this also, hatred makes up for the low weapon skill of the Necro Guard, I feel. Honestly, I think we should get rid of the Pharaoh.
Really?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because hatred, statistically, is better than weapon skill 6. Now, both is obviously better. But Pharaoh's 200 points. That's more than the Sandstalkers. And I kind of want to keep the Sandstalkers in there because they do fulfill a very valuable role that I feel we need. So I am going to get rid of the Pharaoh. And bloop, bloop. Oh, a lot of points just freed up.
Absolutely.
So what else do we need? We need more chaff. So let's add a unit of vultures. Okay, we got almost 80 points now. Well, now we can add another unit of vultures. And let's look. How are we going to win? We got our Necro Guard. strong unit. Our Shabtis, strong unit. And our monsters, the 2 battle sphinxes.
Yes, and in this case, the 2 together is what makes it a central unit.
Yes, indeed. We have more than enough support at this point. We could just put in another unit of Great Vultures and really control the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is...
Or maybe even up the numbers of the Necropolis Guard.
And yes, we could also bring this back up to 40.
Quite a bit.
Boom. Yes. That's pretty good. And with the Shabtis here, let's give him a standard bearer.
Damn.
2,500 points exactly.
Right there.
So, let's review.
Mm-hmm.
We have our central units, our Shabtis, our Necroguard, and our Battle Sphinxes. Supporting them, we have some magic. We have some chariots to guard their flanks. And we have a casket to help the magic. Now with the chaff, we have the cavalries and the vultures. And for harassment, we have 2 groups of skeletal archers and an ambushing unit of sandstalkers. Not a lot. That's a weakness we'll have, is we don't have a lot of anti-chaff or anti-enemy support units. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Now keep in mind the chariots can, if needed, double as harassment. So I'm feeling good about this list. We'd review it more if we had more time, but we don't, in the interest of brevity here. But that is how you do it. That is a methodical approach. We know the role each of these things is going to play, and when we place them on the table, we know what we want the chariots to be more supportive role, so we'll keep them with the units on the flanks to keep the enemy from getting past it into our juicy center of archers and things. We know we want the Sphinxes together. We know we want the Necroguard to just go as fast as it can up the table, as well as the Shabtis to be on maybe one of the flanks of the Necroguard. We know the Sandstalkers we know what their targets are going to be. Either enemy monsters or enemy artillery. And we know the chaff, what their role is as well. 3 units of chaff is pretty good. Any further comments?
Yes, actually, I was just thinking. Another thing, when you are practicing out your list, really pay attention to how you're deploying. Why are you putting things there? And look at the enemy's army, and why is he putting things here and there?
List building is only one part of the game. We will do another guide another day on deployment strategies and why it's important to deploy properly and how to deploy properly. And it's a game in and of itself. But that's another video for another time. Comment if you think we're fucking wrong. Tell us. We could be fucking
wrong.
Tell
us why, though. Yes. Don't just say, oh, you're fucking wrong. Leave it at that. Criticism is key.
Constructive criticism.
Yes.
Let us know if you liked it, and subscribe.